This is Daniel Southworth, and you're listening to the Geekcast Radio Network. This is Eric, the Quantum Ranger, and you're listening to From the Command Center. Q-Rex, arise!
Hello and welcome to The Pullbag. This is episode 415. That's right, 415 episodes of this podcast. I'm, of course, TFG and Mike, and we are in the middle of June, folks, and it is one hot summer. Holy crap. I am joined once again by Mr. Jesse Raz. Hello, sir.
Ay. Hello.
Hello. Please. You are no Alpha 5.
You're right. I am a Red Ranger or a Gold Ranger, depending on what the situation may need.
Mm-hmm. And really, the only one that matters is the White Ranger. Oh, wait. Should I have not said that? Should I have not said that?
Yeah. You're canceled.
I can't stop laughing. So anyway, we are here, and Steve Megatron would have been with me, but Steve, no disrespect to him, it's just the way he is. He prefers the short form stuff. Mm-hmm. So if we're doing 2 to 3 issues per versus like 10 or whatever it is, you know, he's not a trade person. He's a single double issue kind of guy.
He's a one and done kind of dude. He's a quickie. Can't hang.
Right. All righty then.
I'm gonna pay for that, so that's all right.
No, it's all right. It could be worse. So Steve started out with me on this Mighty Morphin journey way back when on the Pullbag-ish episodes 341 to 345, and then at some point or another I think it was 371 we did volume 6. So 341 to 345 was volumes 1 through 5 of Boom Studios' Mighty Morphin Power Rangers ongoing. Oh, and I guess I should mention this. This is a crossover with From the Command Center, so you've made it on the podcast that you've been listening to for... Yeah, I completely forgot that, hello, I have a Power Rangers podcast.
Which I like, by the way.
Thank you. Nobody else does.
Oh,
well.
That's all right. It's a team of one. Your mom thinks you're cute.
Do what?
Your mom thinks you're cute.
Yeah, I don't know what she thinks anymore. She's up somewhere way above us.
Thinking you're cute.
Yeah, right. Thinking, oh my God, he had brain surgery and I wasn't there. Anyway, we are here to talk about Shattered Grid, the epic arc that capped off Kyle Higgins' run on Power Rangers from Boom Studios. I've actually bought this story arc. I've bought it twice.
Oh, dude, I have it digitally and I have it in like paper trade because I like to take it with me. I would argue this is the biggest thing to come to Power Rangers. Well, I don't know, since maybe JDF started going on tour. I don't know, but it's been a long time since I think this community's been like this excited about something around the franchise.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. When Boom Studios launched this, when they launched the ongoing, I was like, oh my God. This is awesome. Don't get me wrong. What they're doing, what Hasbro is doing, I was going to say Saban, but what Hasbro is doing now with the Power Rangers series and whatever else, that's great. That's, for getting new people that are...
Well, it's still a kid show.
Yeah, it's still a kid show, and they need to, and television is only so far that you can do.
And let's be honest here. So this allows those such as myself who can remember vividly seeing the commercials for Power Rangers coming on TV, setting their alarm for Saturday morning to watch the very first episode. We're now, of a certain age, and this is the way you can get detailed backstory, a little bit more adult themes in there, and richer stories. Power Rangers at its heart is still a kid show, and probably will remain so forever until it ceases to sell toys, which is what it was designed to do, which is fine. but this is like the next level of fandom. And the comic series was good. This takes it to an umpteenth level because it explores things that will never, ever, ever, ever be explored in the TV show, and that's okay.
They tried. They actually did adapt this in something about the grid, something about they tried to adapt it into the TV show, and it was okay.
It was a little bit. I mean, there was a bad Tommy, but he was a robot, and it's a kids' TV show, and it's not. Your average kid is not. We're never going to get a 5-parter again. We're never going to get a Green with Evil again.
No, we're not. So this Shattered Grid collects. Oh god, this collects a lot of stuff. The story arc for Shattered Grid, the reading order is Go-Go Power Rangers 8, Mighty Morphin 24, 9 and 10 of Go-Go, 25 to 30, along with the Free Comic Book Day Special 2018 and the annual for 2018, and then Go-Go 11, Go-Go 12, which I did not read Go-Go. If it isn't in the collected edition that I'll have linked in the post, it did not get read. But basically, I have the master arc of supposedly the entire story, at least the main one. At least this is what it says on Comic Vine, that the trade that we're going off of collects Mighty Morphin 25 to 30, the Free Comic Book Day Special, and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Shattered Grid number 1.
Yeah.
So I think we're only missing like 1 or 2 issues besides the Go-Go Power Ranger series, which that to me was more for the kids, and the Kyle Higgins stuff was more for the adults.
I enjoyed Go-Go for what it was worth, and it was nice because Power Rangers was it was like a monthly, so you got it kind of kept you from going crazy. And then when they started kind of interweaving those things together, it got kind of really interesting too. So I liked both, and I was reading both before this, and obviously including this. So,
So Shattered Grid, oh boy! And I have to say the big collected trade has, because Shattered Grid, the logo and the lightning and whatever, it's purple and white. I mean, if it was black and purple, it'd be twice as better for me, but it's purple and white.
You're being nitpicky.
No, I'm not. I actually dig it. I'm just saying my 2 main go-to colors are black and purple. If I have some sort of t-shirt, it's either black or purple with black or purple things on it most of the time.
I'll tell you what, the cover of the trade and the cover in general with, Drakon holding the cracked helmets, I have all of those.
Yeah.
Harkens back to the Boom Studios Zero, where all the individual Rangers are holding that. So I have all 6 of those. I think I'm missing a couple of the variants, but I have those, and I have them framed and hanging up on my wall. And I mean, they are badass.
Do you have the Evolution ones?
No.
You need to look for those, because there were Evolution ones where it was like Draken's Evolution 2, Draken's Evolution 3.
I saw those, and I had a chance at getting those. I just have other bills to pay.
Yeah, that's the problem with variant covers for comics. They cost a lot.
Yeah, but I mean, the artwork on this is awesome. Especially cover work on this. Why don't you? I don't know where you want to start with this, but I'll tell you the opening of this with Time Force, like just out of nowhere in the future, is pretty cool.
20 years of Time Force this year, folks. Wow, I can't believe it's been 20 years since Time Force aired on TV.
I know, right? But it was pretty cool because up until this time, we really hadn't gotten too many. We haven't really gotten anything other than Mighty Morphin, and so to see into the future. Like that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it absolutely was. It's one of those things where I'm like, okay, Shattered Grid. They're going with the whole thing that the Morphin Grid, there are Rangers everywhere. I absolutely dig it. I think it's great. and it's fun and interesting. In this, before we get too far, as I said earlier, written by Kyle Higgins, illustrated by Danielle Di Nicoluco. I'm probably mispronouncing that. I'm sorry. With assistance by Simona Di. I can't pronounce some of these names, folks. I'm just going to butcher them. I really cannot. But thank you to all of the artists for what you're doing here and what you did on Shattered Grid, because it is amazing. And just the whole thing of like alternate versions and alternate, who would you become if you were in a different universe and didn't take the path that you took in this universe, kind of like, that kind of thing. Like if Jesse Raz never went into radio, who would he? Maybe he would be, a sports superstar and, well, I mean, it's a completely different you. So you would have to go with things that you don't currently.
But I would still be 5'10". So,
well, I mean, Muggsy Bogues was a short guy, and I mean, he made it pretty good. Made it look pretty well. True.
So it's really interesting, and there's a couple of things, and this is one thing that kind of confused me a little bit about Shattered Grid. Mm-hmm. So there is the concept of like the timeline of Power Rangers, which play out throughout the grid. So because you have like Time Force, SPD, and then other Ranger teams that are shown off screen that currently exist, but weren't in there, i.e. Beast Morphers, whatever. But then you also have this notion of alternate realities as well, which is where Draken comes from. Mm-hmm. Because he is like in an entire infinite multiverse of Tommies. There's only one that went back to Rita, and that was him. So there's a lot of it. It can get it. My one, I guess if I had a negative viewpoint on this, it did get a little distracting as to which was an alternate universe, which was a timeline thing, because we know SPD or not SPD,
Time Force.
No, RPM is a different universe. Like that's already been canonically talked about. Like that whole thing is a different Earth entirely. We know that Dino Thunder is not Dino Thunder, Dino Charge.
Charge
is also supposed to be. So, but outside of that, it's like, okay, wait, is this like in the future? What is this? So it does get a little confusing. Especially with all the various teams as to what is what, but it doesn't really matter, I guess, but it's just a little tricky to follow.
Yeah. I followed it okay. I thought it was interesting. You're right that the worlds are like the time, they don't follow Doc. Everybody should follow Doc Brown's rules because Back to the Future rules are the easiest to follow.
True, but everything's sort of folding in on itself. Like you have the universe of the coinless, and then you have the main universe, and you have the other ones. So he's traveling there, but he's also traveling somehow in the future, and so that part it didn't kill the story for me. But there are times I had to go, wait, where's he at now? Okay, yeah,
yeah. And the fact that they kill our Tommy almost immediately at the end of the first issue, I was like, I had the wind knocked out of me.
You know what? I was totally fine with that because, Tommy Oliver is a little bit like Superman, and that it's like, oh, well, we'll just call Green Ranger in. Oh, we'll just call White Ranger in. Whatever. I mean, the character on the show is great, and you can't be like, well, I hate Tommy. I mean, he's 5 Rangers, but still, it's just like after a while, it's like there's some other great Rangers to feature, which I think that this series does a really good job of featuring different Rangers as well and some of their strengths and allowing them to play key parts in this.
And I think that's the coolest thing that Boom Studios did and continues to do, because currently they ended this series at issue, I think 55 or 56 or something. And we will cover all of it, folks. Trust me, we will. But they have 2 new series. They have Mighty Morphin and they have Power Rangers now. And what I liked about Shattered Grid and what I think is super cool about this is that at the end of this, you have multiple Rangers from multiple... you don't just have the Dino Charged... the Dino Charged team isn't here, but the Dino Thunder or... the Lightspeed, it's not just one show. It's a multi-generational thing of the entire grid. So you could have like Time Force Pink with Lightspeed Yellow and Samurai Red or whatever.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I never was that big on Samurai. I don't know.
My son, I have a 5-year-old, and he's kind of getting into it, and not my favorite, but again, it's a kid show, and
Yeah.
it's I like. Here's what I need from them now, and I guess we can come back to this if we want, but I need them to give me an actual closure to Zeo, and I was kind of hoping that we might get something in here because. We went from Zeo powers, which the Zeo crystal is supposed to always, it's supposed to continually getting more and more powerful over time. So, i.e., that should be like the most powerful set of Rangers by that definition alone. And then we switch it for cars. I understand the notion of, okay, we ran out of O-Ranger material, but dude, we've got the, we got the Soul of the Dragon. We got the Tommy, future stuff. We've gotten the Psycho's Quest, which was good. Give me a Zeo wrap up.
Maybe they will. You don't know.
They're dragging their feet on that one. So, but I was hoping we'd get that. But so where do we want to start with this?
I mean, it's an evil Tommy. He's going to take over the entire grid. He wants to amass power.
Well, why don't we start with where the trade starts off with, and it's an evil Tommy that we've already been introduced to earlier in the series,
right?
And he gets pulled into our universe when Billy and Tommy get sucked into his. His powers don't work, and so he is under lock and key at what is it, the wherever Grace is, Prometheus, yeah. And then another universe, his universe is Saba, decides to go and murder him because he realizes he's too dangerous to be left alive. And then Tommy murders him first, or Draken murders him first, and then goes on. And that first issue, and that's kind of where it starts, is he gets free. Yeah. When he goes to Ninjor, I think this is really cool too if you're a fan of Power Rangers. Going to Ninjor and bringing that original lore that was sort of written in for all the ninja stuff and having him go through and re-engineer his coin, and just the dialogue of him going, I would have expected myself to do better because these powers just look forced together. And like that whole conversation of him tricking Ninjor, I thought was really A, good fan service, but B, it really kind of brought in the TV show mythos and brought that whole sort of Morphin Master to the forefront.
Yeah, it absolutely did. And what I liked about it was that Ninjor eventually realizes, and finds out, but he kind of tricks him.
Oh yeah.
He kind of, is like, yeah, I'm the real Tommy. I'm this, I'm that, and I'm blah, blah, blah. And by the end of it, he's like, oh, by the way, no, I'm really not. I'm actually evil. And,
which is kind of funny because I'm like, okay, it's like if they took the first trilogy of Star Wars and rewrote Jar Jar Binks to be a competent person. I was like, oh, so is that what we're doing? We're kind of going back and taking away Ninja, but then he gets duped and you're like, okay, no, he's still where we know, just a little bit, there's a little bit more of a different edge to him.
Yeah. And I do absolutely, I think why it hits me so hard when Tommy dies is because right before that, he and Kim were having a moment. Yeah. That's why it hits me so much here, because, again, way back in the 90s, they kind of hinted and yada, 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 but nothing ever really happens.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, though, again, this is the first time I've been on here to talk about this, but I really like what they've done with Tommy as a character in the comic books, because they actually let the fact that he was brainwashed by Rita, he's been thrown on this team and kind of against his wishes and all that stuff. They let that marinate. And it's not just like, oh my gosh, now we're best friends and we're fighting evil. Like they kind of explore what that would really be like. And so he's been feeling like an outsider for all these issues leading up to this. Now he and Kim have gotten a thing. And you're right. It's like all of a sudden they're like, oh, we're getting happy Tommy relationship from the show. Nope. Best.
Yeah, that's not what this is at all. It's just so it's just so wrong. It's good. I love it. And I am the single probably loudest person that will shout the awesomeness that is Kyle Higgins and his writing, because he loves
the loudest.
Yeah. Because he like when I interviewed him for the first time 8 years ago, he was saying like he would love to be able to write this. And then lo and behold, in 2018 or 2017 or whenever it was that he got the job. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool.
For sure.
And so we have a fight here with Draken and Kim, because Kim morphs after Tommy dies, and then Jen shows up.
Yep, which kind of ties everything that was in the beginning into this, which is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Draken disappears through a portal to his home world. And it is, no use. There's no pulse. He's gone.
Which at first, like reading it, because, hey, it's Power Rangers, you're sitting there going, oh no, they're going to like bring him back. Like they're going to, which, spoiler alert, they do in the end. They do find a way. But, you're sitting there going, waiting for the loophole,
Yeah, this is exactly why I waited for the trades on this. Like, I just, initially when I read it, I did read it single issue, and it did kill me. But in order to come back to it for this, I'm like, I cannot read this in single. I need to see a whole story. And what I love about the stories is, what I love about the full-on collected edition that they do here, because like I said, I bought it three times probably, but I have this big trade that has the whole arc, and then I have Volume 7 and Volume 8 of the series, which is Part 1 and Part 2 of Shattered Grey. It's the same stuff. It's just collected in two shorter trades kind of thing. But in the trades, they do like Chapter 1, Interlude, Chapter 2. Like, it actually reads like a full-on book, as well as obviously it being a comic.
Can we also talk about how badass the Power Ranger guards are in Draken's universe?
Yes.
Like I gotta say, I'm a Red Ranger fan, so I gotta say those Red Ranger guards are pretty awesome.
Yeah, they really are. They where he's walking into his room or whatever, he says, tell them to wait for me in the gold room. Until then, I have other matters that require my attention. I swear to God, they look like I'm probably going to get the name screwed up, but the Red Guards from
Star Wars.
Yeah, from Star Wars.
First Guard. Yeah. And you know what's interesting too is so he goes in, and obviously he has a relationship with Finster 5. I still want backstory on what how those two got combined together. How bad was Finster injured that he had to, merge the two? Like, what the heck happened there? But you get a warm embrace from Finster 5. So you start to feel like, okay, this guy's not completely, you start to almost feel for him just a little bit, because you see he's got a relationship with this creature.
Robot. Yeah.
And then they get into, which again, it's like you would never be able to get into this on a TV show. You get into the realities that are being a superhero and what happens if someone dies.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. And that's cool. I love, and that's what I've always loved about Kyle's writing, is he can take anything and he made me cry in Nightwing. He made me cry in this several times. I swear to God, if he makes me cry in his new series, Radiant Black, I'm gonna hunt him down.
Yeah.
But that's a mark of a good writer. If you have an emotional response to what they're... I know a lot of people, or a lot of people that aren't comic book people. Oh, comic books, that's not literature. Shut up. Yes, it is. It's written. It has, just because it has picture, like,
Yeah.
anyway,
Listen, I've gotten into that debate with people, and obviously if you're listening, you don't feel that way. So, but yeah, just the realities though of, and again, going back to what you said about Kyle's writing style, these are, you do get a sense that these are teenagers making these adult decisions, because again, Tommy died in a fight as a Power Ranger. You now have to figure out, how do you tell the world that he's dead without revealing that he's a Power Ranger, and thus revealing all of you. So then they had to go deal with that. I love the panels where they show, how everybody's kind of dealt with that. Jason assuming the dragon shield, all of that stuff, holding that back. And then we finally get into the meat and potatoes of it, where Jen gives us all the exposition that we need about the Ranger teams, the timeline. It's broken. This is going back to your Back to the Future analogy. This is the Doc Brown. This is the chalkboard scene where he goes, "Here's 1955 that we're in." That's what this is. This is just laying it all out. Here's the universe as it should be. Here's the universe as it is, and it's getting worse.
Yep. And we cut to Samurai, and yeah. I don't know. Like, okay, first of all, I'll say this. I like that they didn't just take Samurai that was on TV. Like, this is a female Red Ranger here. This is not...
Well, did you ever watch the series?
Samurai? Yeah, we covered it.
Okay, well...
It's been a long time.
Well, because I believe, if I remember correctly, like, she was supposed to be the Red... Like, that's why she's Red Ranger. Like, that was supposed to be how it was played out. But yes, I'm glad they went with her, because I think that gives us a female Red Ranger, which we've been needing for a while, like in the forefront of the story. But B, as we'll see later on play out, her and Jason have kind of a relationship, which is cool until you remember Jason's 16. She is not. It's weird.
That's true.
Into the universe sort of thing, so you can kind of overlook it. But, especially since, we're all used to watching Power Rangers, and there's no way in hell that kid is 16. So Austin was in his 20s when he played this. So just like Jason, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so we storm into Samurai with, again, a badass looking army.
I mean, seriously, like, the Mastodon Rangers have never looked so good before.
It's just like, man, I love Power Rangers, but these uniform cards, man,
they're amazing. The artists that are working on this book are just throwing it down to the point of, holy crap, I absolutely love this. And what I also love, not only more so on the actual classic characters, they don't try, and I don't know if they could have done this. I'm not sure. I don't think they were going to. But you know how some comics would be photorealistic and try to get likeness rights for, like, the likenesses too? I'm glad they are not that. It's Tommy. He dies. It kind of looks like him. Obviously, the Ranger suits are the Ranger suits, and that's fine. But I absolutely love that these designs for these characters are not exactly the actor likenesses.
Yeah.
Because it gives them more of an originality to someone that may have never watched Samurai or never watched. I mean, anyone that says, tell me about Power Rangers, besides telling them to go back and watch the best episodes of Mighty Morphin, I would hand them the first 8 trades of this series.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. But this fight is this fight's pretty epic.
It is.
I'm with you. Samurai, I'm not super married to Samurai. But I love this fight and the way it played out. But I also like how we kind of get this weird strategy where he's just going in, kicking ass, and then taking a morpher.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really cool too is, you look at Power Rangers and you're like, all right, it's 5 teenagers, sometimes 6. with Zords and all this stuff, it's like, you do find yourself sometimes asking the question, well, what if you gave it to adults? What if they had this, what if they were more proactive with things? And what you get is Draken. You get the Mastodon guards, you get the Sabretooth guards, you get the tanks, you get all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you get.
Yeah. I do love, and this is completely separate, but I have to bring this up because I just have to. So, was it last year, a couple years ago, whenever it was, Jason David Frank put out on Kickstarter Legend of the White Dragon.
Oh, yeah.
The initial campaign did not get funded. He put it out again in 2020, and it got funded. I backed it. It was one of the 7. I've only ever backed 7 Kickstarters.
Oh, yeah.
At least 7 successful ones. I've backed a few that weren't successful, but whatever. But it's one of those things where it's like, he says in one of those videos, it's like, and this ties into your whole adults Power Rangers thing. He's like, I want to get back into Spandex while I still can. Because at this point, Tommy's pretty old in real life. I mean, JDF he's still in shape and he's still doing all the stuff he always did. But man, that's going to be awesome. So yeah, Draken, remove their morphers, bring me the red one. Oh man.
Then of course, our heroes, the Mighty Morphin crew, show up pretty much at the end of the battle, just in time to save Lauren, the Red Sand Ranger. Something else that's really cool that I thought was a nice touch is the full-on blending of technology and magic that Finster 5 uses to take their morphers and basically, allow him to tap into that part of the morphing grid.
Yeah.
What do you think about Draken's suit evolution?
I kind of dig it. I think it's fun. I think it's interesting because, again, it's showing you that he is more powered up. Like, he has more power every time he has more morphers to add to his collection. I mean,
yeah. See,
Power Ranger morphers, got to collect them all.
Oh yeah, I've got a good stash myself. I like the idea of it, and I just wish it was executed a little bit better because, I wish I had each time it happened, there was more of a full panel reveal of what it was, because there are sometimes as we get later on in the series, I don't notice it as much. The transition from normal, Black Dragon Draken to, okay, he's got the samurai, the shield changes a little bit, he gets a little bit more, green in there. That's really cool. He's wearing black pants is what it looks like, but it's I really would like almost at least a half panel view of that evolution every time. Cause sometimes I tried to go back and pull up a full timeline list, and it's not always easy to discern.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. I think it's one of those things where every time it changes, it's like, hey, he looks even cooler than he did before.
Well, again, I like the idea of it, but I just wish that, this is kind of a criticism of the artwork. I just wish that it was, I don't know, it was sort of a bigger deal. There was more attention drawn to it, I guess, is what I'd like. Cause I love the idea. And when I can really hone in on the details, cause that's the other thing. I just stare at some of these suits and just really hone in on the details, but they're hard to, some of them are just a little harder to see than others, but,
yeah. And the explanation of the morphers and why he's using them and how Finster 5 is using them and how he's like, oh, well, shouldn't I be using more? And Finster 5 basically explains to him, no, you can only use one morpher from each team or else, it'll become unstable.
Or else you end up blowing a fuse there.
Yep.
Yeah. What do we, I was to say, the other thing is at the end of this, there's this long, Blue Centurion sort of sub story.
Yeah, I completely don't. I do not read the backup stuff.
Okay.
I have not. I just it takes me out of the story because it's a separate story from, like, when they were doing the Bulk and Skull backups in the first issues. I'm like, okay, so this is where the kids come in now. Like, the adult story's over.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong. I'm not saying, I'm not trying to give one opinion here. I am, but I'm saying that it's been a while since I've read that kind of stuff. And I blame Scott Snyder and Batman. I am not a backup story person. I want how you get to the last track of an album, whatever that track is, you feel from the first track to the last track, that final track is the end of the story or the end of that chapter of the story. And then, oh, wait, we have 2 bonus tracks, and the bonus songs completely change the entirety of the album. That's how I feel with
I can see that.
Yeah. So the Samurai Rangers have fallen. The command center looks really glowy. I mean, that's a lot of blue glow on Zordon and the viewing globe. Oh my! It's a good thing it's not flashing, because I'd have an epileptic seizure right about now. Seriously, folks, I'm not kidding. The blue in here, just looking at this now, I'm like, holy crap, that's bright.
Yeah. Now this is where we jump from Mighty Morphin to Go-Go, right?
Okay, I think so, yeah.
And so this is where we get my favorite character from this whole arc, and I will make this bow, Ranger Slayer. We get Kim's backstory.
Yeah, the alternate Kimberly, yeah, that's super cool.
And we learn more about the Ranger Slayer, which is such an awesome concept. The use of the Sword of Darkness as a bow is so badass, which, like I said, I'm working on a Gold Ranger helmet right now. I will be making the Ranger Slayer bow because that is so flippin' awesome.
Yeah. It really, really is.
She comes in, and then that in the Grave Zord. We get, I think we get that this issue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. It's just so good. It just is so great. And then we go back to Mighty Morphin and we get Zordon and Alpha, and Zordon's like, for the fate of all worlds, I accept. And he's going into the grid.
Yes.
It's like
a little deviation, I guess, from the TV series, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So we get introduced when Draken's in Ninjor's lair. We get sort of introduced to the concept of Morphin Masters, which we learn more about much later. And so then Zordon kind of is like, okay, I'm going to go commune with them. But, and then we find out that basically like he loses his ability to go into the Morphin grid as a master by doing this. It's like a weird, okay, we'll give you a hint, but you get 20 points off your test.
Yeah. It's just so nuts.
Yeah.
So nuts and crazy and awesome. Because again, in the show, we knew it was Zordon of Eltar. We knew he was kind of trapped in between dimensions, but seeing him outside of the dimensions and seeing him in the grid and seeing him basically make the sacrifice for his kids.
Yeah.
For the sake of his kids and all worlds. And I love the way Kyle writes the history of the Power Rangers, basically taking the original show and explaining to the Morphin Masters who they were. I love all of that. I think that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's an easy way to tell new readers, hey, this is how Jason, Billy, Trini, Zach, and Kimberly came together and then Tommy. We even see Bulk and Skull. And oh man, that reveal later with Skull, I was like, holy shit, Skull's a Power Ranger.
I mean, that's a really cool, and and it's nice that they get sort of a little bit of a redemption in this too. Bulk, fighting alongside Kimberly in the Resistance before she's captured, becomes the Ranger Slayer. Skull joining the Lord Draken's forces, and then we eventually find out that he has been sort of a double agent. Like, I love that those two get fan service here in this, because it would have been very easy to just skip over them.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we see, Tommy becoming green with evil and all of that. And we see him join the Rangers, as they're, mourning him because they're at his funeral still. And it's just so good. Like, don't get me wrong. In 1993, when I was 13 years old, I was glued to my television for this show. I was all about the Green Ranger, whether he was evil or not. I loved it when he became a good guy, but he was a really bad, you want to talk about a badass 90s villain? Tommy Oliver, Rita's Green Ranger, was pretty friggin' evil.
Oh yeah, I mean that was some scary shit right there. Him and Lord Zed. I'll tell you what. I mean, there's a reason they had to tone down Lord Zed and have him marry Rita. Everybody was like, "Listen, you're scaring the poop out of my kids." Did we?
As an adult, I find that hilarious, though.
Oh, of course you do. Did we skip over? There was a very poignant scene as Draken's going and getting morphers, where he confronts himself as Zeo Ranger 5.
Yeah, that might be in Go-Go, I think.
That's in Go-Go. I think that's in Go-Go. And I thought that was a really interesting moment, and where he had to confront himself and give pause to, because you almost see a little bit of doubt in there, because the whole thing with him, first he's got this whole, like, I'm nothing like you. You're weak. But then to see himself as Zeo Ranger 5 and to have another power set, you can see that it gives him pause there. Like, okay, did I do the right thing here? Did I mess something up?
Right. And and so Zordon finishes his story, and he does say, what happened in our dimension is not what happened in all dimensions. And we go to Draken's world, which is where the coinless are from, actually.
Yeah.
And we see him and Rita, and he's in his classic drag. There's no samurai collar or anything. It's the classic Draken uniform, and damn, as someone who has talked to Rita Repulsa in the past, I was not expecting this, and it kind of hurt. That
you had to know that was coming. There's no way he just
obviously
took over for her. There was no way.
But again, this is the thing, like, especially with reading in Comixology's, guided view technology, going panel by panel, it's like, I wonder what's going to happen next. And, he's talking about that, every child must grow up. And then you just see his smirk hurt. Oh, my heart hurts for her. Rita may have been evil, but she wasn't. There have been worse villains in Power Rangers than Rita Repulsa.
I don't know. She really, there's really a lot there when she's a lot worse there than she is in the TV show, because she is a lot more vindictive, and she's a lot more dangerous in the comic books.
True.
And is willing to throw more at them than she is in the show. That was, that whole backstory on those two was great. In Go-Go, I think we kind of glossed over this. The Ranger Slayer backstory before Ranger Slayer Kim kind of gets defeated and then kind of decides to join sides, sort of thing, and ultimately saving everything.
Right.
The look of disappointment on Tommy's face when, you don't have your bow,
Yep, you don't have your bow. What's wrong?
And by the way, the design of the Gravesword, just the remains of the Thunderzords all cobbled together as one, was freaking awesome.
Yeah, it was.
Like, I have all the Thunderzords. That's freaking awesome. And then the Mega Gravesword, where they combined with the Dinozords, dude. Mm-hmm. I need that. I need that toy.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, though, in Go-Go 12, they Ranger Slayer Kim, before she goes and does anything, shoots Tommy with the Chaos Crystal that she stole.
Mm-hmm.
And then we don't see or hear anything else about it.
Not until the very end.
Oh, she ultimately saves the day.
Yeah, because she says, "You'll understand why I did this soon."
Mm-hmm.
When she shoots him. And she does shoot him, and it's
pretty awesome.
Wow. What?
It's very sort of like Terminator.
Oh, yeah. Very much so. It's like, I'm going back to the past to help you out, and no John Connor needed. No Christian Bale needed, thank God. Anyway.
So we move on to this is a series that I really liked, and I'm so glad that it really played a part in this series. RPM. We head into the RPM universe. Dr. K. And it's like, you know what? That's a good use of Dr. K, because if there's somebody up there that's at least as smart as Billy, or maybe even smarter, and able to manage things like Zordon, it's Dr. freaking K.
Yeah. And I liked RPM. I thought RPM was fun. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was cool.
Well, RPM had the same kind of bonus that Power Rangers in Space had. They thought it was the last one, so they kind of did whatever they wanted to for the most part, except that, RPM kind of went down a path. They got a new writer, director, series head, and took it down another path. And so there's obviously a very sort of deviated path there. But as a whole, it's a great series. And it's a great concept, too, that you could only sort of pull off if you don't think there's any other Power Rangers coming after you.
Yeah.
Also, you get to see Jason teleporting his Tyrannosaurus and just sort of driving around the deserts of Corinth, which is, again, kind of an awesome concept.
Yeah, Jason and Lauren hook up and they play footsie in the Tyrannosaurus, and yeah, I like this. I think this is cool. It just sucks what happens.
Yeah, it does. But it's like, they do a really good job of showing, the battle on multiple fronts, because you have the new samurai squadron of Draken forces, plus the Dino ones, plus you have the RPM Rangers in there, and then, Jason and Lauren are trying to help. You have that in there. Meanwhile, though, you have some stuff going down in the universe of the Coinless. And you get to see the remains of the Juice Bar, which, again, it's a total nostalgia sort of fan base, sort of fan. Oh, but it's so cool.
So cool. So cool. And I have to say this. If I was picking Juice Bar over the Max, Power Rangers wins over Saved by the Bell any day.
Over Max all day, every day.
Yeah. I love Saved by the Bell, don't get me wrong, but if I'm picking a hangout spot as a teenager, the Juice Bar was way cooler than the Max.
Oh, and side note, also, how badass was the last panel of 27, where it's Lord Draken, who's, again, he's gotten another power, so it looks like he's gotten the Zeo power, so we've got that combined in there, but you have the Psycho Rangers.
Yep.
You have is that like the Mystic Knight, Mystic Force? I didn't really indulge too much in.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's
or the like Lone Wolf or the Wolf Knight or whatever, and then you have the Power Ranger or the Power Rangers SPD A Squad.
Oh yeah, the A Squad.
A Squad. I'm like, oh my gosh, you are not throwing any punches here.
No, they really are not. They really aren't.
It was so good, and so you have all that. You have that square off, and you have Kimberly and Jen flying around in the pterodactyl dinosaur, which is awesome.
And I love their exchange here because you expect headaches. Okay, so
the memory adjusting stuff, which is kind of a cool concept too.
It is. It very much is. And here's the thing. For those of you who are listening to this on the From the Command Center feed, it's been a while since we've done anything on this feed. Besides, the original MMPR Boom Studio stuff that we did way back when. Since we recorded those podcasts a couple of years ago, I've been through brain surgery. And headaches are anytime anybody says they have a headache, I'm like, go get a CAT scan. It's I know people, everyone's different. Don't get me wrong. But seriously, headaches for me are no joke anymore because I had to have fluid drained off my brain. The doctor said my brain was about a half inch from popping out of my skull.
I'm just impressed they found one.
You know what? I'm sitting here trying to be emotional and explain my damn story. I'm just glad they found a brain. It's a good thing you're in Kentucky and not, or Indiana, I should say, and not, out here where I am.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we get, Kimberly and Jen, and yes, you're right. The memory thing, having headaches and being a side effect, and
I think it's really interesting too. So what ends up happening, and what they're kind of starting to do is, Jen and Kimberly are on sort of a mission to try to recoup some of the survivors. Mm-hmm. So they end up with a ragtag sort of group of random members of various Ranger teams.
Yep.
So, and it's a very interesting selection, which plays out in the next arc after this, which I was not usually a fan of, but
I'm in the middle of reading that right now, which is going to be our next episode, and it's going to be interesting to see how you and I talk about that because I'm actually really enjoying it so far.
It's just very slow. I'll put it that way. It just sort of felt like after a while that I was like, okay, this is a cool concept, but I don't feel like you even know where you're going with it. Kind of my thought. And then they sort of wrapped it up and it was still a little bit confusing. So anyway, they rescue Corinne from Lost Galaxy.
Yep.
And, which is funny. There's a line and it made me laugh in here because, they come upon Terra Venture and she's like, what group is this? And she goes, they're called the Lost Galaxy Ranger, or they're called the Galaxy Rangers.
Right.
Which they never really called themselves that. I mean, that's the name of the series, but
yeah,
it's like, that's interesting. I guess they had to, it's like in Forever Red where all the Red Rangers had their morphin calls and Leo just goes, go Galactic when he morphs and he's like, go Galactic.
Yeah.
You could have had him say anything else, but okay.
But that's what he said. That's what he said.
I know. It was but after Jason morphed, he goes Tyrannosaurus. And he's like Mighty Morphin Red. So everybody called out the name.
Yeah, true.
And Leo goes, go Galactic, morphs. And then he's like, go Galactic. I'm like, you could have said Galaxy Red or Lost Galaxy. Okay, whatever. But anyway, I digress. But so they come and they get Corinne. They pick her up. So we're at that timeline where she's taken over for Kendricks.
Yep.
And then we're kind of back on the pterodactyl, which it's interesting to see how big this thing is. You don't think about it on the show, but it's like there's like 15 people in here.
Yeah. It's like, really? Seriously?
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be, but it's like, oh, dude, I didn't realize this thing had like cargo space.
Yeah, because in the show they don't like it. Okay, so the only it's essentially a cockpit because the only place you really see in the actual show for Mighty Morphin, they did show the cockpits a few times. They really only showed the Megazord cockpit the most. But in the movie, in the 95 film, you actually do get to see how small those cockpits are.
Well,
but I get it. They have to do it for...
In the show, they look tiny. Because like when Green Ranger comes in and he literally throws them out of their own Zord. I mean, it's like, how are you walking? Like, how do you get to the front row? Like, if you're Jason and you're sitting in the front row, if you come in there and the other people are already seated, they got to get their butts up. So you can it's like being in a bad movie theater.
Yeah. And nobody goes to movie theaters anymore, folks.
Oh. Yeah. So anyway, so then we cut back to the Battle of Corinth, which they're kind of holding their own for the most part. They got a team. The Tyrannosaurus Rex is fighting them back. Dr. K is kind of figuring out how to screw with their powers.
Yep.
And then something we didn't mention, the thing that's kind of brewing in the Coinless universe is they've made Billy and Trini have made contact with the Coinless, and now they're planning a sneak operation.
Yep. And that is so cool. I love this.
The two Zacks.
Oh, it's so it's so cool.
Is this maybe we skipped over it, but are they going there to get something for Rita? Did they make the deal with Rita yet, or is that later?
No. So he talks about that his...
Because I'm trying to follow along. I've got the comics up, but I don't have the same trade, so I know I'm going back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where he's in there to... What are they... I forget what they're trying to say.
Well, we'll continue. We'll continue on, and maybe I'll get it right. I'm sure people are at home going, "You idiot, you idiot!" But hey,
that's me. Yep, I'm an idiot.
Yeah. But anyway, so the Battle of Corinth isn't going very well as Draken finally steals one of the RPM morphers.
Yep.
But then the cavalry shows up in the form of Kimberly. Doggy Kruger comes down from the sky.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah. That is so cool. I love that. Yes, I do believe that we have already seen the Zack future where he was going to be the Rita Ranger, and he
I know what we're doing. The plot is they're sneaking in there. They're trying to free Ninjor. That's what
it is.
They're trying to free Ninjor, and Skull is helping.
Yep, because Skull is the secret spy. That's what it is. Yeah. And there's so many deaths in this.
Well, that's what it is, and it doesn't really matter.
I know, but it's just...
So they go. So the Coinless ends up getting in. They get to Ninjor, but then Finster 5 finds them out. A battle ensues. Then we cut back to, which is really a badass concept, Jason's T-Rex destroying the dome of Corinth.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. It's just so... This art, man, it is so good. It really is. I can't say enough good things about the character designs, the lines, how... you may not know every single character, but you can tell the difference between yellow Sabretooth Tiger Trini Ranger and yellow RPM Ranger, or what, clearly it's, and we kind of end this part of the story with Draken trying to get to the Morphin Grid, and it ends on a really, really sick panel soon.
Well, we lose Coinless Zack in this. Speaking of death, we lose Coinless Zack. We've lost the city of Corinth. And that's when, the smile, the gross little Draken smile.
And they had mentioned, they had wondered what happened to all the people that Draken was capturing. Here they are in the next issue.
Yes.
So at least they don't kill everybody.
Well, you kind of get a sense that he needs them for something.
Something, yep. And I love that it's Kelsey and TJ, and I thought that was really cool.
Uh-huh.
Poor TJ. Never gets enough respect.
No. Well, he got to be a leader for half a season and got relegated to blue, which is probably better for him in the long run. But
so we get more.
He was the first Black Red Ranger, so I mean, you got to give him props.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was a good team leader. Turbo was just an unfortunate season. So
yes, it was.
But the command center did get blown up under his watch. So
maybe he's not the best leader.
I mean, I want to blame Justin solely for that, but
Poor Blake Foster. That guy must get so much stuff.
I think it's gotten better with time, but yeah, it was not.
Probably. That just you always hear about certain, and we can talk about that on another episode, because Power Rangers and tragedy, it follows people. So we get back to the command center with Doggy and Jen, and
a lot of leaders in that room.
Oh yeah. It's like a whole cabinet of them. And Jason introduces them to Dr. K. We have Grace. We have Lauren.
A lot of smarts in here.
Oh, yeah. A lot of brains. And, of course, wait, I've seen this in a movie.
Yeah. So, basically, we run down the plan. The plan is he's got this giant tower. Yep. That's kind of how he's using to broadcast all his powers to his forces and whatnot. So, the goal is amass everybody that's still got powers, go to the moon, kick his ass, and tear it down.
Yep.
Pretty solid Power Rangers plan.
Pretty much, yeah. And we go back to Draken, and this is by far the one time in 30 plus years, 20 plus years. Well, no, just 30. Oh, God. 2023 is the 30th anniversary of Power Rangers. Holy shit. The one time in almost 30 years where I'm like, oh my God, I'm rooting for Skull.
I love how they call him Skullovich, too.
Yes. That is so cool. Oh, so good. And
one quick thing before we get to the Skull, we kind of glossed over. Andros's escape pod comes crashing down right outside the command center, and we get sort of a very brief, and they touch on a little bit more, reunion between him and
Corone. Yep, his sister.
Because even though Corone has already had that reunion, he has not, because of where he was plucked in the timeline. Which again, I think is very interesting how he plays around with that. Like, not every Ranger is at the end of their arc, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's good writing. That. Again, playing with time travel and playing with this many characters over this many generations of Rangers, you can have people do so many different things, and it is very interesting.
Yeah, and then this is where he finds out the Ranger Slayer has slipped from his grasp.
Mm-hmm. I've been searching for you, and this is where it is.
Where's the bow?
Yep.
Yeah, her whole timeline gets a little bit jumbled.
She has a one-shot issue that we'll talk about at some point in another episode of the podcast, but
she gets a little jumbled because her arc really takes place over in Go-Go Power Rangers. Yeah. So if you're not reading them necessarily in order, it's a little tricky to kind of follow, and that's where the Grave Zord is and all of that stuff.
Right.
So that takes place kind of over there, but this is kind of the final wrap up of her as Draken's slave, and this is kind of where she sort of officially joins the team.
Yeah. and we have Draken and his powers, and they have to move quickly. And you're right, the constant costume changes as he's getting more power. It gets some reveals, but in most of the conversational stuff, it's just, hey, this is the.
It's not enough. Like,
yeah.
I want, or at the very least, like, give us some covers with it. You know what I'm saying? Because he's been in the Zeo one for a little bit, so you get more exposure to that. But like, especially after he progresses, it's like the last one he's got for like maybe an issue, and then he becomes ultimate Draken, and so it's like I want to see it more in the artwork. You know, I want a little bit more gratuity with seeing it, because it's a really cool design. Like, from the original one to all the different variations are actually very cool. I just want to see more of them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this is where we find out that, you know, by taking Ninjor, they've kind of screwed him a little bit.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know, good for our heroes.
And we get to Andros and him explaining what's going on with him. And we get to Jen and Corone, and I'm like, oh, another heartbreaker.
Yep.
You know, it's your brother. I don't know what I would say. I don't know how to tell him who I am. Oh, you may just have to wing it.
Yep. You can't really tell him that you're the bad guy that you're currently fighting.
True. And again, the timeline thing of being able to put Astronema in here without actually having to put her in here as another villain in the way of Draken, kind of like. Yeah. I mean, the way Kyle incorporated Rita was great, and the fact that Zed is nowhere yet at this point at all. It's just dealing with other parts of the timeline and not Zed.
Yeah, which they get to when they go later in the series. What's really cool as a Power Rangers fan, something I never ever thought I would get, Doggy Kruger and Zordon of Eltar having a conversation about mentoring and leadership.
Yep. It is so good.
It's so because I gotta say, you know, there've been a lot of mentor figures in Power Ranger seasons, but I gotta say Doggy Kruger is a little bit more Zordon-like in his level of knowledge. And I gotta say, if Zordon could leave his chamber, he would probably be more of a, you know, hyped up sort of fighter, just like Doggy Kruger is.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we have a nice moment between Grace and Jason. And I thought, again, you know, it all comes back to history and whatever else, and the fact that in this universe, in this story that Boom Studios and Kyle Higgins and everybody created, that she was part of a Ranger team back in 70, you know,
yeah,
moon landing and all that, and she was the Red. So we actually have had 2 female Red Rangers in there.
That's true.
You know,
but the fact that she was selected and basically led to slaughter.
Yeah, that's just crazy.
Untrained, sent out there to kill the Green Psycho Ranger, like that was crazy.
Yeah, that was absolutely nuts. But I love that, again, you know, you're talking about Doggy and Zordon having a moment. Jason, who, I mean, he is the leader of this team, even though once Tommy normally came in, Tommy ended up being the leader. Because, you know, Jason had to go, you know, to some summit and save the world. Whoops.
Not really. Well, not really. We find out later on that that's not exactly where he went.
True, but...
Which, I really like that retcon, by the way.
Yeah. That was really good.
It's also revealed that Grace is the one that builds Terra Venture.
Oh, so that's what they end up calling it.
Exactly.
That is very... Again, you have... The reason why comic books are such a great medium is that you have a set number of... You know, you look at any comic book series. Take this series, for example. We got Kyle Higgins overall on the main Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Boom Studios series from issue 0 to issue 30. We got him for 31 issues on this series. And he put so much love into his stories that he's telling in this series. And then we get to like Marguerite Bennett in Beyond the Grid and other writers later. I think Ryan Parrott comes in after that kind of thing. I don't know. I haven't read past what I'm currently reading.
Yeah.
Because again, folks, I read comics to enjoy them, but if I'm covering them on this show, I'm reading them to cover on the show, so I have them fresh in my... Like, I read this, 48 hours ago.
Yeah. Well, so I will equate this to one of probably the most amazing moments I've ever had in a cinema in my life. And I would say this is probably one of the comic book forms of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in Avengers Endgame,
Mm-hmm.
portals open up.
Mm-hmm.
Here on your left.
Oh, yeah.
The Rangers walk outside the command center. Trini says, look, and in the sky are a bunch of transportation lights. And then they cut to a panel of a bunch of morphed Rangers ready to kick some Draken ass.
Absolutely. With fucking Eric and Magna Defender leading the charge.
Eric, Magna Defender, Phantom Ranger, and Gold Ranger.
Yep.
Right there at the front saying, come at me, brah. By the way, I misspoke earlier because I said that Beast Morphers wasn't in this. They are in this panel.
They are, yeah.
They don't get too much lip service there because that hadn't come out yet. But yeah, they are in this.
Yeah, they are. And you want to talk about a series I would love to see them. You want to talk about a story I would love to see them do. Obviously, we kind of probably can't at this point because of what happens in Shattered Grid. But these four, Phantom Ranger, Eric the Red, Mike Magna Defender, and I assume that's Jason, not Trey.
Actually, I think it's Trey. I think it
probably is Trey because Jason is still the Red Ranger.
I would love
the
two Jasons, so I think that's Trey.
Yeah, that's probably Trey of Triforia. I would love to see just a one-shot story or something with the four of them as a team.
Yeah.
That would be super cool.
Yeah.
And
okay, so I got ahead of myself earlier because this is the panel. This is the one we end on where Zordon and Doggy Kruger go and make a deal with the devil.
Yep. This is the deal with the devil. And hey, at least we have one more day.
Uh-huh.
You walked right into that.
I know.
And I do love seeing our universe's Rita. I think that is super cool.
Well, and it's really interesting that and I appreciate this detail. So when they cut to Rita's palace, the neon sign on it doesn't say Rita's palace. Like you would think that they would go back and write on there. It says Bandora Palace, which is from the Sentai, which I thought, I was like, you know what? That's a really nice touch because you could have gone back and put Rita's Palace on there, but you didn't. You kept it true to the TV show, and it was a mistake on the TV show. Yeah. So nicely done.
With how this series is, I kind of like that it doesn't say Rita's Palace. I don't.
Like I said, I think
it's
continuity of the show for better or for worse.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got to throw that fan service in here somewhere. I mean, why not? I'm just surprised there aren't 5 lions lying around somewhere.
So anyway, we get in here and Doggy and Zordon are brokering out a deal with Rita Repulsa. And of course, it's not going so hot.
No. She has other plans.
Of course she does.
Yeah. I love that they try. I think it's great that they do try.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they do get her on board eventually. But then we cut to, again, another great scene. And this is such a dumb little thing, but I love it. Him melting down the ninja steel and like pouring it over and using it to forge a more badass Saba. Like I love that he is again using whatever, and this was in the annual, whatever he can get his hands on to just be more powerful.
Yep. Yeah.
Which again, he turns Saba into less of like a saber, or like more of a Falcata into more of like a katana.
Yeah. Which is super cool.
Yeah, which again matches his kind of power evolution, that the suit evolution and everything that he's gone through.
Yeah. And we get to the point where, it's the hero's speech. It's, had him riveted, Doc, but aren't you forgetting something? Huh?
Yeah, but we can't walk over the panel. You can't walk over the panel of the Magna Defender and the Phantom Ranger having a conversation where he says,
"Oh no, I'm not." Yeah, yeah.
Helmet guy, huh? Like, it's so cool here as they're preparing for war. Yeah. Trini is trying to figure out the Black Dragon suit. Everybody's sort of comparing weapons and armor and all that stuff. It's kind of like that scene when they're getting ready in Helm's Deep in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is so cool. It is so fun. And again, things you would never see the Magna Defender and the Phantom Ranger.
You would never see all those Megazords lined up next to each other.
Oh, no. Because, they'd have to trample a whole city to have them do that.
Speaking of, you all can't see this, but I have 4 Ultrazord formations sitting beside me right now.
That must have set you back a pretty penny. Those Ultrazords are really expensive.
I had some of them since childhood. Others I've just sort of pieced together as I've gone. For my birthday, one of my best friends gave me Tor. So I had the Thunder. Now I have the Thunder Ultrazord. So I have the original Thunder, the original Ultrazord. I have the Thunder Ultrazord. I have the Zeo Ultrazord with Pyramidas. And I have the Ultrazord that never appeared in the show, and that's the In-Space Ultrazord with the knockoff Silver Titanus, which is basically the original Titanus model, but they put a shuttle instead of the Titanus head on it.
Oh, wow. That is so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So they just made the toy. It never appeared on the show, but yeah. So I have that lying around, but kind of like this panel where we've got a bunch of Rangers, and I love how good if there's one thing that we didn't get enough of, and it's because it was a kid's show, because, they left for pay disputes, but Jason was a badass leader before Tommy. Jason was a badass leader, and seeing him get that character get to be that here is awesome.
His speech is amazing. I love it. I think it is so cool. I think I don't think I know, okay, from the Command Center's history, so I'm specifically speaking to the people who are listening to this on the From the Command Center feed. Yeah. We have talked to Karen Ashley. We have talked to Rita, Barbara Goodson, and may he rest in peace, Robert Axelrod. And we have talked to Jason David Frank. Mm-hmm. If I ever get ASJ on here, if I ever get Jason on here, I want Austin St. John to say these lines. I almost want to message him and say, "Hey, will you say these for me so I can put them in this podcast?" Seriously, so good.
He's a super cool dude. He came to Louisville in 2019, and I have video of him teaching my son how to morph.
Oh, sweet! That is so cool.
No, super cool guy. I met him and David Yost. They were both at a con together. Yeah. So they were both super nice. I get the sense that ASJ's been through some stuff. I've heard some stuff. I don't want to comment on stuff that I've heard.
No.
That it's official, but he just seems like he's had a life and again, very nice guy. It's just kind of what struck me. And David Yost was the same. And I've met Walter Jones. Walter Jones, I was at a con waiting for him. He's come back for lunch, and all of a sudden I'm in line and somebody comes up from behind me and go, "Can you believe this jerk going to lunch when he should be here signing autographs?" And I turn around and it's Walter.
So it was him talking. Talking about it. Oh, yeah.
Wow. Just an awesome dude, like super nice. Exactly what you would expect him to be.
You know, it's so funny you mentioning this because he is awesome, and I do want to interview him at some point, hopefully before I stop podcasting or die, lose my voice or die or whatever. But Walter Jones ended up going to, I'm pretty sure he ended up on several episodes of FX's The Shield. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh shit, Zach grew up. Damn. Because I hadn't seen him in anything since Power Rangers. I was like, because he played Rondell Robinson. That's right. He played Rondell Robinson in The Shield. Oh, so cool. Yeah, I want to talk to that guy too. Yeah. We have a scene. Go ahead.
I was going to say both, like all of them are super nice. I would love to meet or at least talk to Amy Jo Johnson. She's every interview I've heard with her, she sounds very sweet. Once my Gold Ranger helmet and shield are done, I hope to be able to meet ASJ again, show him that. But
yeah,
who knows what the next time is going to foretell. So who knows when all that'll happen. But after the hearing now, we've got Jason on high, giving an impressive speech to everybody in front of their Zord. We got Dragon Zord in fighting mode. Got all these, which again, I love the Zord combinations that he chose. Like, okay, we're gonna do this. All right, we're gonna go for power. We're not gonna go for numbers. All that stuff.
And we have the single greatest emotional scene for Kimberly ever.
Yes,
where he passes her the dagger.
Yep. You get to drive.
So good.
Yep. I want you to pilot the Megazord.
Yeah. But it's in Dragon Zord mode. Exactly.
The pterodactyl isn't even a part of that, which we never see her on the show. Like when it's in battle mode, she's always in the cockpit and it's like, what'd you do? Did you just ditch your pterodactyl? Okay.
Yeah, it's parked over there next to the DeLorean.
Yeah, Jason's usually in the T-Rex, so we've got that, but we don't ever have
Yeah,
because the Dragon Zord in battle mode, fighting mode, whatever. Zordon has said it both. Doesn't involve the T-Rex, which they can't. Oh, that's right, they can't make that because the T-Rex got destroyed when they destroyed the dome. So, goody.
Exactly. So they are about to embark on a journey that is gonna kill them. Likely.
By the way, I wanted a better panel of Kim in the shield too. I thought that was you don't get to see Ranger wearing that shield very often. But anyway, just art nitpick. So here we go.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, but I think it's cool that the dagger actually turns pink, and we see that it's glowing gold. So she's infused with the power. So
I mean, it's cool, but it's like a hero shot. It's not. This is the first time in canon we've gotten Kimberly wearing that because in the show Zach wore it once, Jason's worn it a couple of times. Obviously, Tommy wore it, but we never had a woman wear it.
Yep. I think for what the panel is and for how it, how he presents it to her and how she reacts to it, I think it's okay that they did it this way. Because again, for me, I'm looking at this in actual, yes, you're right. I would looking at the full page, I would love to see an actual full body, shot of her with the shield, but looking at it in the guided view, it's like, oh, it's just these little moments, and these little moments turn into something so large. And the best thing about it, though, is that it's because he's hugging her, but it almost disappears when they hug each other. And
that was kind of the thing that kind of stunk. Like we get the panel, and then they kind of hug, and you just kind of don't see it. But I mean, there's a lot to this issue because we got to get to the fight now.
Yeah.
Because the fighting begins, they get their charge, all the fighting stuff happens. Everybody gets into their battleizer modes, which is pretty cool. And then we see the fruition of the deal that Zordon and Doggy Kruger struck.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Man. It always has to be a fucking candle, doesn't it?
Well, she hasn't played that card yet.
I know, but you see, so you see, her and Zordon and Doggy and Ninjor, and the reveal, only I can save us all, and it's her with the green candle, and it's like, oh shit. Yeah. This battle was wildly awesome.
This issue took me forever to get through because I just kept staring at these panels and kept looking at details. So many little details here. And I love that they kept this has been a problem in the show, but also subsequently in like Forever Red. Mm-hmm. I love they kept the scale of Serpentera because Serpentera is bigger than the Thunder Megazord, which is actually supposed to be bigger than the Dino Megazord. Mm-hmm. So the fact that Serpentera freaking comes in and swallows the Megazord whole is like, holy crap.
Wasn't Serpentera Zed's?
It was, but but we don't know what went on in the Coinless universe. Where is Zed in that? You know what I'm saying? And I think, okay, I don't want to spoil anything for you because you're not there yet. But that's kind of one of those things. I don't know what universe this came from. If it was taken from ours, or if it was taken from his, but that's awesome.
So the fight is at his palace, not Rita. Yeah, they go to Rita's palace to get her help, and they come back to. Yeah, they're fighting in Draken's world.
They're fighting in the Coinless universe. His palace on the moon.
So it's his palace. It's his.
That's where the tower.
Yeah. It's his Serpentera. So maybe we have not seen what Zed obviously does or doesn't end up being in the Coinless universe. Okay, I got it.
There's some later on stuff that kind of
No, but I'm saying as of this point, because my thinking was we have our universe Rita, but we have Serpentera. How did that happen? Because Zed is not in our universe yet.
Yeah.
Now that I realize, it's kind of like you with your epiphany earlier. Now that I realize this is Draken's Serpentera. Yeah. So,
Yeah, you see what I mean though? It's a little tricky to remember where things are coming from, whatnot, because for sure. You see now that long Saba saber just sucking people's powers. I mean, it's just leeching the hell out of it.
Yeah, it is. And then, you want to talk about a hero shot. Yes. I agree with you. I wish her taking on the power of the gold shield would have been a little bit more, but I still love it with the context of that emotional scene. But her with the dagger and the bow, oh my God.
And it totally screwing with his absorption and going back to his lair, and lo and behold, who is there?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Who's there? That would be Rita.
I'm kind of curious though. What did it? Was it the dragon dagger to the chest, or was it her candle? Or did one to another?
Let me look here because
I've read this panel a few times, and
I know, I'm trying to interpret it myself. Yeah.
My working theory is that she shot him in the chest and it interrupted his power flow. So he retreats, and that's when he gets kind of caught in the candle.
I think.
And I don't think that they're related necessarily, because they didn't have the plan.
I think I want to say it's a combination of both, because she activated the candle in that one panel, but it didn't take effect until he was depowered by Kimberly shooting the dragon dagger. It's basically using his own weapon against him.
Yeah.
So take his old weapon, I should say, since he has this giant Saba now. And then, now that he's in the clutches of Rita Repulsa in his own palace.
Oh, by the way, to answer our earlier speculation, that's right. he has taken care of Zed in this universe because
that's what I thought.
Finster 5 shoots him with Zed's staff.
That's right.
So that's why he has Serpentera.
Yep, that's right.
That's right.
That now. Yeah,
There's some more like lip service to that and to that the other universe bad guys in a later on Ranger Slayer Draken kind of crossover sort of 3-parter that deals with a little bit more of that. But yeah, seeing him blast everybody with Zed's staff is pretty awesome.
Yeah, very cool, very cool.
Yeah, but of course Finster just tries to throw the candle down. It's it's not how that works there, buddy.
It's not, no. Yeah, no, that's not how, make my candle grow. That's not how this works, dude.
Yep, his power's getting sucked from him, so it forces him to do the unthinkable.
You know what? Okay, so let's just talk about the show for a minute here. Out of our universe and Rita's minions, I'll say, because let's face it, Squad and Babu are minions. Finster is more of a scientist. Goldar is the warrior kind of thing. Out of all of her characters, I never really saw original Finster as being super, like, he did Rita's bidding. He made the clay putties, he made the monsters, all that, but as a kid, I always liked that character because
he just seems like a very like dottery old man, not the evil horrible creature that he really was and is depicted to be in the comic books. Just the manipulative evil sort of thing that he is. That's it's kind of a genuinely sad moment that when he snaps Finster 5's neck, I thought, but also it's very symbolic of his. There is, there's no family. Like there is no good. It's all a means to an end for him. And he finally decides to just crank all those morphers up to an 11.
Yep.
And it goes white.
Yep.
And then to be concluded in Shattered Grid Part 1, which will start right now.
Exactly. Yeah, there's no that's the good thing about these long form podcasts and covering these trades. They last like several hours.
So,
go ahead.
I was going to say, so the battle continues. We start the Shattered Grid 1. Battle still continuing. Serpentera is kind of wreaking havoc. Zords are kind of going down by the wayside. They're getting nowhere fast. They got to take out Serpentera. They got to figure out how to do it. And this is one of the cooler concepts in the book.
Yep. I cannot go any further though, because we have to call the fact that, hey, that's Lightspeed Pink. That's Dana. I always had a crush on Dana Mitchell's character.
All right. Darn right.
Oh, man. Loved her. So they... I
have a crush on Allison McGinnis. So,
Well, yeah. I mean,
She's... Yeah. No.
Yeah. And we get a morphing sequence that is just crazy.
I mean, they take all these Zords that never should go together, and they just combine them with the Black Dragon, and boom. By the way, I like that they added the Hyperforce.
Yes,
which is not canon to the TV show, which is the MMORPG.
Yep. And
role playing. Sorry.
Yeah. So what do we call it? How about if we survive, you can name it.
Yeah.
I love that.
See, this is one too that I spent probably a good 15 minutes just staring at, trying to figure out, okay, this is this piece. And, that I enjoyed looking at that and trying to figure out what went where, what came from what.
Yep.
It's a little difficult. I feel like they cheated a little bit, but it's still pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, that image of the full page or the full panel image of the Zord, they kind of cheated, but you really can't show in 2D art.
Oh, yeah.
3D objects are like, I mean, if this was a 3D comic, they could do it. Not that 3D comics are huge, but, but yeah, I mean, so good. And wow, yeah, this battle is just.
And I want to know, okay, this kind of bugged me about this. So Ethan's just been sitting on the Q-Rex Zord this whole damn time?
Apparently so.
Didn't think to bring the damn Q-Rex? We have to wait for the other Q-Rex to get like destroyed before we could get the new Q-Rex?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, by the way, small digress. I was not a big fan of Megaforce. Went back and watched. I know you haven't really watched the Sentai, but went back and watched Gokaiger, which is the Sentai that's based on.
Right.
That is so good, so flipping good. And what's cool is if the Q-Rex, you're like, man, that looks really sort of familiar with a lot of things. It's based on the Q-Rex from Time Force,
right?
The Dragon Zord, and what's the third one? I want to say it's the white Dino Ranger from
Dino Thunder.
Dino Thunder. I want to say it's that
Draco.
Yeah. So it's based. I think it's based on those three. It's pretty awesome. So anyway, so he summons it, and Jason goes rogue and decides to make a run at the tower while everybody distracts Serpentera.
Yep. And Jason's run at the tower would be his last stand.
And if he's going out, this is the way you go out.
Oh yeah, and you want to talk about a power move? The panel where you see this is the final form.
Yeah.
Of oh god, that is awesome.
Just the tower, everybody's powers.
Yep.
All the everything.
Oh.
Freaking Serpentera is just chewing up the Q-Rex.
Yeah.
And then the whatever Zord slices it from behind.
Yep.
Meanwhile.
Oh my god, this reveal. Holy crap. What an image. That is some amazing art.
I'm not digging the cape. Was not a rookie fan of the cape.
Yeah. Always listening to Edna Mode, folks. No capes.
Yeah, and this is where, so this little bit after the reveal here is where we get the setup for what will become
the next arc.
The next arc, Beyond the Grid.
Yeah.
This whole after bit, to me, this is kind of maybe the weakest part of this whole run. I enjoy it, but it's just very strange, and it's not necessarily my favorite. Because, you get basically Rita and Zordon playing the mom and daddy didn't have. And it's very sort of Norman Rockwell. You go through there. He's some kind of superhero, which, is dealing with these incursions from these sort of spiritual entities, which are his own demons, come to find out. The Dragon Zord, Tiger Zord, all being run by Jin and basically the remaining Rangers that survived the last onslaught.
Right. So basically,
ordinance.
Yeah.
He sort of like remade the universe in the way he would want it.
Right. I thought it was like. So I like the little setup for what we're going to get Beyond the Grid. I think it's a little weird, but again, as I mentioned earlier in the episode of the podcast, that having each Ranger on a team be a mashup of other, like we said, TJ and Andros and Kimberly and blah 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 blah. Like, all the colors, but different. A color from each team. I think that's cool. The fact that he now has the heart of a master, of a Morphin master or whatever. Fine, okay, he's now a god. And honestly, I gotta say, this is the best panel that we've gotten this entire story.
Which one?
Of the Dragon Zord and the Tiger Zord.
That's cool.
It's the only thing, and I'll say this now before we get to the end of the entire story, the only thing that's missing from the overall arc of Shattered Grid is the Falcon Zord.
That's true. Although you get that in the TV version of it.
True. Yeah.
But anyway, so, we get through there. He's kind of, you meet all the individual Rangers who are sort of weaved into the, his universe, and they've kind of been given their own sort of like best case scenario, things that they would want folded in there. He's not necessarily cruel. He's not necessarily punishing them, although, they are trapped against their will. But then he notices that, he's getting winded. He's not all this stuff. And then Tommy, the real Tommy, starts coming in, and this poor Tommy comes and saves the day. And this is where we find out what happened when
she shot him with the arrow.
Yep. He breaks it. He breaks through. He breaks on through to the other side. Gives back all the, the Rangers their memory.
Yep.
Gets them together, and they bring him down.
Yep.
Mighty Morphin style, baby. We also get Finster as sort of a
ninja school reject.
Well, no, he's sort of Bruce Wayne's butler here.
Oh, he's out. Yeah, he's Alfred.
He's kind of an Alfred there. So, but then we learn about the emissaries. We learn about, the heart of the Morphin Master. And basically, once you get through there, you can basically, make a wish essentially. And, you can either fix things so that it never happened or that it did happen, and you got to repair all the worlds. We learn more about Dracon and, all that stuff. And then, it, eventually we get to it, and Tommy wins this fight. He finally, he's gotten his ass kicked by Dracon a few times, and it finally comes down to which Tommy's stronger, the one with friends or the one that rejected them.
It's the one that has them.
Yep. And we learn that, and he eventually wins out. They make, because they're Power Rangers, they make the right choice, and things are rewritten. And it's perfect, and they all say their goodbyes, and then
Happy
it's like
ending, yay!
Except it did. So there we go. The end.
The end. Yep. I do like, though, Draken's kind of last stand and like the final moments here. I do really, really dig that.
Yeah.
And I do love, because this is something in Tommy's character that he would do. He turns to him and says, "You don't have to be alone." But Draken just turns his back on him.
And I think that one gesture sums up where they're different, because and how this is different than the TV show. Had this been the TV show, Draken would have said yes, and they would have become best friends and then hung out at the juice bar. But again, that's sort of the fundamental difference between Tommy and Draken, is that when his friends reached their hand out in friendship and offered to help him up, he took it. Draken didn't. Yep. And that's in the end, that's the fundamental difference between the two of them. So I thought that was, as much as I'm, not like a big fan of the Tommy Oliver show starring the Power, I do think that's how that had to end. It had to end with those two ultimately facing off, and you deciding which one is better, the Tommy with friends or the Tommy without.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the way that was sort of wrapped up, but
absolutely.
It was a lot to cram in one issue. It was a whole lot to cram into one issue.
Yeah. So before we give our ratings and everything else, in the back of the trade here, we have the cover gallery. I know you can't see this, but you know all the covers by now. I'm just looking through the helmet covers as Draken is holding them. I gotta say, Zach's looks like it's destroyed the most out of all of them.
Oh yeah.
And the other covers that I absolutely love is all of the classic Ranger covers. So this is by Carlos Villa. It is from issue 26, Color Spotlight variant cover. So these Color Spotlight variant covers are like all the Red Rangers in one cover, all the White Rangers, all the Yellow Rangers.
I have a few of those.
Oh, I love those. I love them. I think it's so great. It's so interesting to see all of the Rangers. And hey, we even have a turbo cover.
Yep. I mean, they did a good job with a lot of these variant covers. I was really very, very collectible, I thought.
Oh yeah.
And I like certain covers I like to have framed and hang up. So I have quite a few of those that I've decided to put up on my wall. So.
Yeah, very, very cool. All right, 0 to 5 on the GCRN Universal Rating System. What would you give Shattered Grid?
I'm giving this a 5, baby. I mean, really, like I said, I've got some nitpicks here and there. It's not 100% perfect, but I mean, it's a long arc that involves a lot of continuity, a lot of fan service, and it delivers. It delivers on all of it. You know, it's a coherent storyline. It's exciting. It's fun. It somehow evokes a lot of the same emotions and excitement that the original Power Rangers TV show did, but also kind of makes it seem like more of an adult show without making it like dark and gritty, if that makes any sense. Because even though people die, it's not like you see their heads blown off, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's not. I'm going to reference this because I have never actually seen it, but I've seen stories about it. But this is not Batman Damned. We don't see we don't see any Bat Dick in this. But the thing of it is that this is the story that I, as a kid, and as I grew up, and like by the time 20 years ago, I was 21 years old when Time Force came out, and I still felt like I was 13 watching it, but I was still 21 years old when Time Force came out. So I love that they put the dark and gritty, and Draken would do this, but others wouldn't do. Like, he goes to extremes that others wouldn't, but it's not like over the top Frank Miller violence, thank God.
Exactly. Like it's an adult series in that there's adult themes. Like, I'm not going to I can't wait till my kid is old enough to read this because I think he'll like it. But it's adult themes. It's more of a realistic, well, not realistic, but it's more. Yeah, I guess it is more of a realistic look at that universe. You know, there's still some very unrealistic things. This is a Power Rangers comic book, but it is realistic in the sense that, you know, you get a sense of people's emotions. You explore more. It's deeper.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, again, it is for us. It is for us that grew up.
Yep.
You know, like I said, I was between 13 and 15 between the first two seasons and the movie, you know. So, I mean, this story, Kyle Higgins on the writing, all of the artists that did the art, absolutely fantastic job. I don't think this story would have been what it was without this creative team. All right, folks, coming up next week, we are going beyond the grid. That's right, Jesse Raz is coming back for it. We get a double shot of Power Rangers here in June of 2021. And yeah, we're going to see how far we diverge on that road, because apparently Jesse doesn't really like Beyond the Grid all that much.
I'll give it another reading, but I didn't say I didn't like it. I just said it falls short from
what this was.
From Shattered Grid. It's a very tough act to follow, and it doesn't follow.
It's a tough act to follow, but I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to
save it for next week.
I'm just saying this as a closer here. What they're trying to do is they're trying to set up a whole new universe and team, so we're not coming back to just Jason, Trini, Zach, Billy, Kimberly, and Tommy.
And how'd that work out for them?
You know what? Anyway, so this has been episode 415 of the Pullbag. It has been episode 53 of From the Command Center. We will be back next week with Beyond the Grid. here in the summer of 2021. We are trying to bring back the fun to podcasting and comics. Where can the people find you online, sir, if you would like to give that information out?
Sure, you can hit me up on Twitter at Jesse Rass. 1 S at the end. I do a good enough job of making myself out of an ass. I don't need you to do that. So you can find me on Twitter at Jesse Rass. I'm on Instagram, same thing. I'm on TikTok, same thing. I mean, yeah.
I am at TFG and Mike. You can hear all the other information in the closing. Make your great escape into comics, and may the power protect you all.
You've just heard the latest episode of The Pull Bag, the GCRN's first comic review and discussion podcast. There are several ways to get in touch with us and leave feedback for the show. You can visit the website, geekcastradio.com, where you can comment on the episode and all of our different podcasts. You can rate and leave a review for the show on iTunes. Be sure to leave us feedback. Become a fan of us on Facebook, facebook.com/thepullbag. Send us an email, feedback at geekcastradio.com. Follow us on Twitter at thepullbag and at geekcastradio. So until next time, make your great escape into comics and unleash the geek in you.
Isn't the smallest chance of victory enough of a reason for us to keep on fighting? The world needs us, Rangers.
One day the great responsibility of being the Red Ranger will fall to you. Take the world from evil. Stand by your allies. Never run from a battle.
My mission is to bring you back.
Ready!
Let's rock it!
Yeah! Silver!
Black! Pink!
Blue!
Yeah!
Whatever we do, we have to do it together.
Power down.
Commander Kruger's hoping you're the best he has ever had.
Till we meet again, Power Rangers.
Destroy them!
Outfit, do we still have shields? Engine set. Activate.
Ready!
Ready.
So many Rangers. So much potential. Squandered for so long.
My lord, the generals are ready. They simply await your command.
What's important to me now is my friendship with all of you. I don't ever want that to change.
It won't, Tommy. You'll always be one of us.
And it's time to set things right.
We will invade their worlds. We will tear down everything that might protect them. And then, when it's too late, when they're powerless and alone, they will realize the truth. They could have been gods.